He had 1 bullet left and 12 men depending on him. The enemy sniper was picking off his squad one by one from over 1,000 yards away, dealing invisible death. Mike Torres couldn't see his target, couldn't calculate the wind, but he fired anyway. The silence that followed changed everything. Welcome to Vietnam Stories. Before we begin this powerful story, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from today, and if you believe stories like this should never be forgotten, hit that subscribe button and help us keep these stories alive. October 1969, near An Loc. The Vietnamese forests were quieter than usual that morning. Alpha Company was spending its 3rd day in this hell and was now unable to move. The enemy sniper had trapped them. Staff Sergeant Mike Torres pressed his M14 rifle against his chest, holding his breath as he watched the forest. He was 23 years old, from Kansas, a farmer's son. It had been 6 months since he finished sniper school, but this wasn't school. This was a living chess game, and the enemy was 2 moves ahead. "Torres," Lieutenant Wilson's voice was filled with tension. "Where the hell is this guy?" Mike shook his head. He'd been asking himself the same question for 3 days. The enemy sniper was a master. Every shot deadly, every movement calculated. He'd taken Thompson on the 2nd day through the head, Rodriguez on the 3rd day through the chest. Now there were 12 men left, and they were all scared. "Where's the sound coming from?" Wilson asked. "Northeast," Mike said quietly. "But he's shooting from so far away that by the time you hear the sound, the bullet has already reached its target." Wilson's face creased. "How far?" Mike looked through his scope at the forest. Beams of light filtering through the leaves illuminated the distant hills. "At least 1,100 yards. Maybe more." "Impossible." Wilson's voice trailed off. "You can't target at that distance." But Mike knew the enemy sniper could do it, because he'd been doing it for 3 days. The 4th day came with dawn. Mike was sleepless, tired, but still alert. The men huddled in their positions, no one daring to move. "We're running out of water," said Private Johnson. "We have to move today. If you move, you die," Mike said. "That guy sees everything." Wilson opened the map. "The only way out of here," he traced his finger over a trail, "is to cross that ridge, but there's open ground." "Suicide," Jackson muttered. Mike looked through his scope again. The ridge was 900 yards away. If the enemy sniper was really in those hills, he could see anyone trying to cross the trail. But they had no options left. "I'll go," Mike said. "No." Wilson's voice was firm. "You stay here. Find that bastard." "He hasn't found me yet." Mike lowered his voice. "Maybe I'll get lucky." At noon, when the sun was overhead, Mike made his move. With his M14 on his back, he crawled 200 yards forward. Every movement was calculated, every breath measured. He was using every second of his sniper training. An hour later, he reached a hole in the forest. From here, he could see the direction where the enemy should be. He scanned with his scope. Nothing. Just greenery, shadows, and silence. Then he saw the muzzle flash. The flash of light lasted only a second. A hill in the forest, about 1,300 yards away. Mike squinted, looked through his scope again. There was something there, a shadow, a movement. The radio crackled. "Torres, Wilson here. Jones was hit in the head." Mike's heart stopped. Jones was a good man, married, father of 2 children. Now he was gone too. "Target acquired," Mike whispered into the radio. 1,300 yards northeast, high hill. 1,300 yards? Wilson's astonishment was audible in his voice. "I'm sure," Mike said. "Can you make it?" Wilson asked. Mike looked at his M14. Standard rifle, not the sniper version. No wind gauge, no rangefinder, just basic scope and experience. 1,300 yards. The longest shot made in Vietnam was 900 yards. This was impossible. "I don't know," he said honestly. "You have to try. Otherwise, we're all dead." Mike took his position, left elbow on the ground, right hand on the trigger, breath control. He heard the voice of his sniper school instructor, Sergeant Harris. "Mathematics is the sniper's heart, Torres. Distance, wind, heat, humidity, bullet weight, everything is calculation. But now there was no time for calculations. Mike closed his eyes and focused. Wind, light, left to right. Distance, 1,300 yards, maybe more. Bullet drop, at least 10 feet at this distance. Target, moving, partially concealed. He looked through his scope again. Now he could see him more clearly. The Vietnamese sniper leaning against a tree trunk, scanning Mike's position with his own rifle. Professional, calm, deadly. "My last shot," Mike muttered. "If I miss, we're finished." He exhaled, inhaled, exhaled halfway. The sniper's golden rule, his finger slowly pressed the trigger. The enemy sniper moved, turned his head. Bang! The sound of the M14 echoed through the forest. Mike couldn't follow the bullet's path with his eyes, but he heard its sound, that characteristic whistle cutting through the air. Seconds passed. Silence. Then from far away, very far away, he heard a scream. 10 minutes passed. No shots came. Mike stayed in position, held his breath, waited. Was the enemy sniper still there? Was he wounded? Was he dead? The radio crackled. "Torres, Wilson here. We heard something like a scream." "I heard it too," Mike said. "Hit?" Wilson asked. "I don't know," Mike replied. 20 minutes later, Mike crawled back. The men were waiting for him anxiously. Wilson came running. "What happened?" "I took a shot. From 1,300 yards, I heard a scream." Wilson looked thoughtful. "We need to be sure." "I'll go," Mike said. "I'll confirm." "Too dangerous," Wilson said. "If he's dead, it's safe. If he's wounded, I need to finish him. If he escaped—" Mike paused. "At least we'll know his position." Mike set out 2 hours later, this time fully equipped. M14, pistol, knife, spare magazine. The target hill was 1,300 yards away, but he'd have to walk over a mile on the winding path. The forest was quiet, too quiet. Birds weren't singing, insects weren't buzzing. It was as if nature was holding its breath. An hour later, he approached the hill, slowly calculating every step he advanced. He was careful not to let branches crack, took care not to let leaves rustle. Then he saw him. The Vietnamese sniper lay on the ground, motionless. Next to him was a Dragunov SVD, a professional sniper rifle. Mike approached, keeping his weapon ready. The man was dead. Mike's bullet had hit his left shoulder, causing massive blood loss. But that wasn't what killed him. Next to him was a note written in Vietnamese. Mike took the note and put it in his pocket. He also took the Dragunov. This weapon would never be used again. Mike examined the dead sniper's position. The man had chosen a masterful position, the highest point on the hill, 360-degree view, escape routes available. Next to him were empty shell casings, 15 of them. 15 shots, probably 12, 13 hits. But the most surprising thing was the rangefinder. Modern, Soviet-made laser technology. This Vietnamese soldier wasn't just a local fighter. He had received professional training. Mike tried to calculate his own shot. Not 1,300 yards, 1,364 yards. Without GPS, he had made it purely by estimation. Bullet drop should have been 10.5 feet in theory. But wind factor, humidity, temperature, it was an impossible shot, he muttered. But I made it. Before leaving the hill, Mike also checked the Vietnamese sniper's bag. Inside were photographs. A woman, 2 children, family. Mike looked at the photos for a long time. "We're the same," he said quietly, "just on different sides." Mike returned at nightfall. The men were waiting for him anxiously. Wilson came running. "What did you see?" Wilson asked. "Dead. Single shot from 1,364 yards, Mike replied. Whispers rose among the men. Jackson smiled. "Damn, Torres, you're really a sniper." But Mike wasn't smiling. The photos in his pocket felt heavy. Wilson took the note. "What's this?" "I don't know. Vietnamese." A few days later, when they returned to base camp, an interpreter translated the note. Its contents were, My name is Nguyen Van Duc, from Hanoi. If you are reading this note, I am dead. Tell my family. I fought bravely. Tell the American sniper he is a good shooter, better than me. Mike spent that night sleepless, deeply contemplating the Vietnamese soldier's words. Better shooter than me. Mike kept repeating these words in his mind. Mike's shot became legend in Vietnam. Killing an enemy sniper with a single shot from 1,364 yards with a standard M4T. It was one of the longest-range shots recorded in military history. But Mike wasn't proud of it. On the contrary, he had become quiet. He kept the photos and notes, showing them to no one. "What's wrong?" Wilson asked one day. "You're a hero. Be happy." "I'm not a hero," Mike said. "I just did my job. You saved 12 men's lives. I took a father's life." Wilson tried to understand, but couldn't. War was like that. Kill or be killed, but for Mike, it wasn't that simple. The Vietnamese soldier's note had affected him. Mike returned from Vietnam in 1970, to the farm in Kansas, to his family, to his old life. But he wasn't the same man. The photos were still in his pocket, the note still in his bag. No one asked what he had done in Vietnam. He didn't tell either. He just busied himself with farm work, got married, had children. He lived a normal life. But at night, in his dreams, he still saw that hill. He still remembered Nguyen Van Duc's face. It was impossible to forget. 30 years passed. Mike was now an old man, a grandfather with grandchildren. In 2000, after retiring, he made an important decision. Mike began researching on the internet. He was trying to find Nguyen Van Duc's family. It wasn't easy. The name was very common. Vietnam was in chaos after the war. But he didn't give up. Vietnam Veterans Associations, military archives, even Vietnamese diaspora communities. He searched everywhere, trying to find a result. In 2003, he finally found them. Nguyen Van Duc's daughter, Mai Duc, now 45 years old, was living in California. She was a nurse, married with 2 children. Mike wrote her a letter. He said he wanted to return the photos and note. Mai Duc wrote back. Her English was very good. "We wondered what happened to my father. Thank you." The meeting took place in Los Angeles in a small cafe. Mike brought the photos and note. When Mai saw them, she burst into tears. "That's my father," she said. "This photo was taken the last time we saw him. I missed him so much," Mai said. Mike apologized. "It was war. I had no choice. But I'm sorry I had to do it." Mai nodded. "I understand. He was a soldier too. He knew the risk." The conversation lasted for hours. Mai told her father's story. Nguyen Van Duc was actually an engineer, but when the war broke out, he had volunteered. He was fighting for his family. "I want to show you something," Mai said. She pulled out a photo from her bag. Mike, in his younger days, in army uniform. "Where is this from?" Mike asked. "They found it in my father's bag. He had researched you," Mai replied. Mike was shocked, very surprised. The enemy sniper knew him. Mai continued, "My father was an engineer, but he had learned to be a sniper. He respected you. He used to say, 'There's a good shooter in America. I need to work hard to beat him.'" Mike's world changed. This wasn't just war. This was a duel of mutual respect between 2 professionals. "My father had written his final note because he knew you would defeat him," Mai said. "Why?" Mike asked in amazement. "He said, 'He's younger, faster, better, but I'm fighting for my family. He's fighting for his family too. We're both right.'" When Mike returned home that day, the burden he had carried for 30 years had lifted from his shoulders. Mike Torres died in 2010. At his funeral, Mai Duc was also present. She had displayed the Vietnamese flag alongside the American flag. "2 soldiers," she said at the funeral. "2 fathers. 2 heroes. War made them enemies, but respect made them brothers." Mike's story is told in military schools, not just for the 1,364-yard shot, but for the humanity he showed afterward, for the respect he showed to his enemy. Today in Kansas, on Mike's farm, there's a small monument. 2 names are written on it, Sergeant Mike Torres and Nguyen Van Duke. Below it says, "War makes us enemies, respect makes us human." My Duke comes there every year. She prays for her father and for Mike too. 2 snipers, she says. They were trying to kill each other, but what they finally taught each other was, the enemy also has a heart. Mike Torres's 1,364 yards shot is still a military record, but his real achievement was the humanity he showed after the war. Because true courage isn't pulling the trigger. True courage is accepting that the man you killed was also human. And now I ask you, have you ever met someone like Mike Torres? Someone who saw so much in war but still didn't lose their humanity? Share their stories in the comments. Because at Vietnam Stories, we tell not just about heroism, but about humanity too. If this story touched you, subscribe and share so that stories like this are never forgotten. See you in the next video. And remember, the greatest victory is being able to remember even your enemy with respect.